In this video, we're going to talk about creating a task in Cherwell, but this time we're going to use the web client. It will be very similar to the Blue client, except we'll just be using the web client. So I have that same ticket again with that printer streaking open. Let me just move that up out of our way like before. And as before with our task, you notice that the tasks are hidden. I'm not even seeing anything down here right now. So if I scroll down, see, I still, like before, I have that bar. So if I click on that and get that double-headed arrow, I can drag up. And just like before, I'm going to drag up a little higher this time. And just like the Blue client, Task has its own tab. So I'm going to click on Task. Give it a second to load. Now, remember I created a task in the previous demonstration, so we have something to look at. So in the previous one, I made a task to contact Dell support. Who's it owned by? The status is closed. The description. If I want to read the details, I can drag this over and I can read the details over here. Looks very similar to the Blue client. Let me scoot that over, and just like the Blue client, but here in the web client, I have a new task button, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on New Task. I'm going to scoot this over to give myself some workspace. I'm going to give it a title of Install New Fuser. Type it's a work item. Notice this list. Remember before we had work item, time entry, move to production, escalation. These are the same. Remember how before we had these close items over here that we said we would talk about when we went to the close? That's the same thing. We're not going to talk about them right now. We will talk about these when we start talking about closing. Then we also have the task, save it for a future date if you want to name a specific date that it's due, such as if you wanted to time it and you wanted it due after another task. If you wanted to track how much time was spent on here, you could click this checkbox. I'm just going to go back over to description over here, and I'm going to type in the specific information. Install new fuser on printer. This is a simple one, but you could put more detail. Remember what I said in the other one. Description. You put as much information as necessary to convey your message. What is the task? What is the to-do item? You don't have to put a dissertation. You don't have to type a paragraph. What information do you need to put there that will make it where it's understandable by you and the other party that is going to complete the task, and maybe someone else who looks at this, but without writing a paper? Once we've typed in this information, need to assign this task. Do we want to let the task default to campus-wide printing, which is where the ticket is or the incident is, or do we want to assign it to a specific team? Perhaps you need another team to complete this subpart or to complete this task, and once they complete their part, you can go back and do the bigger picture. Or maybe you're going to be the face to the customer. It's all on how you complete the job, how you and the other party complete the work for the customer. Remember, we're about serving the customer in the most efficient manner. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate owned by team. I'm going to click on that. I like to do it anyway. Even though it should default to campus-wide printing, I'm going to click on it just to make sure. And I would recommend you do that also, as you select the team. I clicked on select a team. Just like before, it's going to give you a listing of all the teams we have in the system. Look at that big list. It's a giant list because we have all these teams. There's campus-wide printing services. That's the team. I click OK. Then once I've done that, I'm going to go up to the toolbar and I will click Save right up there at the top of the toolbar to save my work. Okay, it's saving my work. And now if I look over here in task, I see there's two tasks. Notice this one here is in gray, which means it's completed, and this one is red. Red indicates it's new and it's not assigned to an individual. Now I could go back to my dashboard like we saw in the previous one, or I can just go ahead and do it from this view. I'm going to show it to you from this view. I can click on owned by, or we can do that, owned by, or take ownership. On the previous one I clicked on take ownership. This time I'm going to click on owned by, just to show you the difference. Is there a big difference? Let's see. Owned by, what's it do? Well, owned by, it's going to give me a prompt box, and I choose the user I want to assign it to. And now you notice that it's owned by me. And now notice over here, the color is black and it has my name over here. Now, in the previous video, we clicked through buttons quickly to close this. I want to take you through the steps a little slower this time. So remember, we clicked through acknowledge quickly and those other options up here quickly. Let's go through those steps a little slower and let's see if it changes things. Let's click acknowledge. What does that do? Okay, now notice when it's acknowledged, the status over here changes to acknowledged and it turns to green. That's telling us that the person who is responsible is saying, hey everybody, I know I have something to do and I'm aware. Hey, I'm aware, this is mine, I'm aware. Doesn't mean I've started anything, it just says I'm aware. Notice the next step. Set as in progress. What happens when I click that? Notice now it says in progress and the color is blue. You're telling people, I've started my work, I'm doing something, and it also identifies it over here in the actual task. Now we're ready to close this task. To close the task, like before, you could put a close code. We're going to choose completed because I'm not going to decline it after I've done something. I could ask to have it reassigned, or I could have said withdrawn. Those are fairly self-explanatory. So, new fuser installed. Old one returned to Dell. Okay, so I'm saying the new fuser was installed, the old one was returned to Dell. Dell requires us to return the fuser for a warranty exchange program. If not, they charge us for the new fuser. So I put that information in. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on close. What do you think is going to happen after I click close? Do you think it's going to do the same thing it did in the blue client and send an email message? If you guessed that it was going to send the same message, you are correct. Let me go ahead and make this message a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. But you see task completed and it says the information. Let me scroll down a bit so we can see. Here's the information I keyed in. New fuser installed, old one returned to Dell. It's going to send it to the person that created the task so they are aware the task was completed. So all I have to do is hit send. So once I hit send, now I'm back in the incident and the listing of task, and I can see the original task and the task I just created. So that is sending, or I should say creating a task in the web client of Cherwell. Very similar to as creating a task in the blue client. If you can do it in one client, you can do it in the other.